What is going on, everybody? My name is Pascua, and this is George S198. We'd both like to welcome you to the first annual Entertainment Media Awards ceremony.
We will be looking back at the best movies, machinimas, actors and more of 2013 and deciding who came out tops. Feel free to leave your opinions in the comments, whilst remembering that these are simply our opinions too. You can formulate your own, but this is a list of whom we believe to be most worthy. Please be aware that this will contain spoilers, but you've had a whole year to see it all, so the fault's yours.
Without further ado, let's get this thing started.
We're going to kick things off with the best machinima of 2013. This year saw a lot of new takes on the art of machinima. Our first nominee is Episode 2 of Shards by Evan Royalty. Shards was a highly acclaimed, anticipated series, and after the second episode came out, I for one was blown away by the precision and detail that went into the editing of the second episode, and it made the viewing experience really engaging. Next up is Shock Part 2 from Mean Screen Production. This was a really interesting take on the idea of superheroes, and it was great to see an original concept being used in machinima. I would love to see this origin story be the birth of a regular superhero series. Next we have Delinquent Pair Episode 1 from the Z Productions. This was a fascinating new release that is just thriving with potential plot. It was written and voice acted really well, and I love the psychopathic elements that are suddenly inserted on the viewer. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a bit of Bohemian Rhapsody? Next up is Arbiter 617's Rise of the Spartans Part 8. This long-awaited installment of the much-loved Rot series was uploaded on January the 1st, 2013, kicking off the machinima for this year. It was quite a radical plot with the loss of many loved characters and changing the course of the series. Rot has always been very true to vanilla machinima making, not overdoing transitions or filters but focusing on plot and character development, which really comes to light in Part 8. Finally, we have a machinima that caught everyone by surprise. Digital Virus took upon the challenge of remaking the classic Halo 3 machinima Deus Ex Machina and remaking it in Halo 4. Visually stunning and certainly not lacking in the lens flares department, Virus manages to keep the theme of the classic machinima live in a new format. And the winner is Deus Ex Machina by Digital Virus. The incorporation of such a classic series in a modern format was great to see, and the subtle nods at the original series of Deus Ex Machina were very well executed.
This year, there were many interesting news stories that were released in the comic book multiverse. The first on our list is Marvel's Age of Ultron, written by Brian Michael Bendis. With New York in ruins, Ultron is returned as a self-aware artificial intelligence unit to enslave and take over everyone and everything. The story begins with Spider-Man being enslaved and Hawkeye rescuing him. This incident will later lead into bigger events. Next up, our favorite web-slinging wonder returns in the Superior Spider-Man series, written by Dan Slott. After the death of Peter Parker, Dr. Octopus has implanted his mind into Peter's body in order to prove himself as the Superior Spider-Man. Spectacular comic book writer Mark Millar returns with the best-selling title Kick-Ass 3, following the events of the two previous narratives. With Hit Girl / Mindy McCready in jail, Kick-Ass and Justice Forever need to break her out whilst the villain known as Red Mist is back on the streets. Second to last is the 2013 Marvel event Infinity. When a threat known as the Builders closes in on Earth, the Avengers must launch off into space to confront them. Meanwhile, the Mad Titan himself Thanos makes his move on Earth to reclaim something he believes is his. And finally, the best comic book series of 2013 is DC Comics' Trinity War. When a member of the Justice League kills an affiliate of the JLA, the following events lead in a chain reaction, ultimately sending the DC universe into complete darkness and disarray. This 6-part event was very fast-paced and quite epic. It features the writing talents of Jeff Johns and artistic talents of Ivan Rice, who I think are quite fantastic creators in themselves. The series also leads into Forever Evil, but since that event hasn't concluded yet, we couldn't list it as one of the best series this year.
There are many contenders for best internet series this year. Let's kick off with the earliest one, Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome. Now some of you may be wondering, since it was released in 2012, why it's on the list. Well, the DVD and Blu-ray retail launched at the start of 2013, so we thought we could bend the rules a bit. Blood and Chrome was a great catalyst, as it acted as an introduction to the Battlestar universe for new viewers, and a creative expansion for die-hard fans. It captured the Battlestar theme perfectly. Next up is Man at Arms. Rising to over 1 million subscribers in under a year speaks volumes for the quality levels of this show. Professional blacksmith Tony Swatton forges the most badass weapons from movies, games and other fictional universes. From a Klingon bat'leth to Sora's Keyblade, you name it, he's made it. Even Sokka's meteor sword, made out of a real meteorite. Video Game High School Season 2, the much anticipated continuation from Freddie Wong's beloved series, took the events of VGHS to another level, setting the stage for a much larger story. Brian battles to stay at the school, Ted seeks to prove himself to Drift King, Key tries to find her purpose at VGHS, and Jenny has to come to terms with her mum being coach of her team. All this, coupled with the return of the law, makes for an intense and entertaining plot. Now we have the latest original series from Rooster Teeth, Ruby. Ruby takes place during a time in which the world is threatened by the creatures of Grimm. The story follows 4 girls, Ruby, Weiss, Blake and Yang, loosely based off fairy tale characters, who are all in their first year at Beacon Academy, a school that trains huntsmen and huntresses. This exciting new anime, with its wide range of lore, characters and weapons, is a great addition to Rooster Teeth. And finally we have Mortal Kombat Legacy 2. After the first series, the viewers were left begging for more of this Machinima exclusive live action series, and quite rightly so. It takes the idea of an arcade game and amplifies the story into something tangible and exciting, featuring Johnny Cage, Raiden, Sub-Zero, Scorpion and many more. But alas, we have decided that the best internet series of the year is Ruby. Monty Ohm, as the lead animator and director, has really outdone himself. Ruby has lovable characters, all of which represent a certain kind of person. With stunning action sequence and superb writing, Ruby is nothing less than epic.
We saw many actors and actresses flourish in this year's top blockbusters. Here are what we believe to be the top contenders this year. First off the bat is Henry Cavill. There's a reason why Batman has always been more popular than Superman. Batman's character has always been represented as a more tough figure. However, in Man of Steel, Henry Cavill was able to restore that tough and imposing figure to Kal-El, whilst retaining the symbol of hope that is so true to the Superman nature. His performance in itself is a symbol of hope for the Man of Steel franchise. Second, we have Chloe Grace Moretz. Chloe pretty much kicked things off in 2013 as Movie 43 released on January 1st. However, her big debut of 2013 was surely in Kick-Ass 2, where Chloe portrayed her famous role Minnie McCready, also known as Hit Girl. Following this, she went on to lead in the Halloween movie period as the leading role of the remake of the 1976 horror film, Carrie. Her performance in all 3 of these movies has been nothing less than spectacular, and she fits all 3 characters perfectly. We then come to Tom Hanks. Tom's first role of the year was as Captain Phillips in, you guessed it, Captain Phillips. He followed on into November with his role as Walt Disney in Saving Mr. Banks. In both situations, Tom is playing 2 real-life characters in 2 very different situations. His ability to do so and his ease in role is no less than we would expect from Mr. Hanks himself. Another noteworthy Tom this year was Tom Hiddleston for his roles as Loki in Thor: The Dark World and Adam in Only Lovers Alive. Tom is starting to become an all-around recognized actor, and for good reason. It's fair to say that in Thor, he had the most amount of presence in the room. His articulate and emphatic portrayals of the character he plays makes him stand out in the cast. Finally, we have Sandra Bullock. Sandra was featured in 2 highly acclaimed films this year, The Heat and more recently, Gravity. Playing lead roles in both, Sandra managed to capture the contrast between 2 very different themes in 2 very different films. She manages to genuinely become the character in both situations, engaging the audience in any emotion she chooses to convey, and creating an atmosphere of either humor or intensity. After much consideration, we have decided that the best actor of 2013 is Chloe Grace Moretz. Chloe has quickly emerged as a highly respected actress at a relatively young age. All 3 of her films dominated the box office, bringing in $59,027,940 altogether on their opening weekends. This and the number of films that she has taken on this year make her fully deserving of this award.
Soundtracks play an extremely important part in the laying of the theme of a movie. We'll be judging this category on the musical quality and ability to set the scene. First up, we have Now You See Me. This soundtrack was composed by Brian Tyler and really does capture the elements and themes of the films. This heart-pounding soundtrack portrays the idea of these magicians turned celebrities having the world at their hands, giving the characters this cocky air. Then we come to Man of Steel, composed by the famous Hans Zimmer. Man of Steel's soundtrack was exactly what a Superman film needed, a continuous heroic anthem that created an atmosphere of hope and triumph, and that is exactly what was delivered. Desolation of Smaug. After years of readers' interpretations over what the Misty Mountains song actually sounded like, The Hobbit finally satisfied Middle-earth fans. This beautifully made harmonic and heroic tune can carry these strong characters through any scene. Following this, we come to Pacific Rim. Now, one thing that can be said about this film is that it's a straight-out Japanese-style robot vs. monsters. The soundtrack complements this greatly. This rock and roll theme tune that was added makes the viewer really get behind the stunning combat scenes. And last on our list, but certainly not least in our hearts, is Kick-Ass 2. Continuing on from the events of Kick-Ass, Kick-Ass 2 renewed the theme from the first film and created a great complement that appealed to the more heartwarming scenes in the film. Best movie soundtrack of the year is Man of Steel. Certainly one of Hans Zimmer's finest, and that's saying something. This heroic orchestral accompaniment was exactly what Kal-El deserved for his tremendous reboot.
And now we move on to the best director of the year. First on the list of directors comes J.J. Abrams, which really showed off his talent this year with the phenomenal Star Trek Into Darkness, and has shown his skills and the ability to coordinate such a finely tuned project. And we certainly can't forget Zack Snyder. With the help of his fresh vision, the Superman fanbase now has a glimmer of hope for their favorite Kryptonian. We can only hope that his directorial vision is operating at full capacity for Superman's somewhat overcrowded sequel in 2015. Next we have Kimberly Pierce for her direction on her remake of Carrie as mentioned prior. It is a hard thing to do when you're tasked with making such a classic yet dated horror movie. You have to worry about staying true to the film whilst making sure that it has the same scare factor ratio as it did before. Pierce could not have done a better job. Following this we reach Alfonso Cuarón with Gravity. Gravity was a beautiful, stunning, and intense film. It was peaceful yet chaotic, and the numerous first-person shots helped to put the audience in the moment of anxiety and trauma of Sandra Bullock. With a fair plot to accompany this intense journey, the film will leave you feeling numb. And yes, we know that it's very scientifically inaccurate. Jesus Christ, loosen up, guys. And to top it all off, we have Alan Taylor. After taking over from Kenneth Branagh on the direction of Thor, Alan certainly earned his stripes with a wonderful reimagining of the Asgardian universe, without having to resort to a reboot to recover from the 2011 Thor. The film was entertaining in all regards and had a level of humor that is starting to become more frequent in Marvel films, allowing the characters to not take themselves too seriously, a recurring problem in past superhero movies. Despite the lack of character development for Malekith, Alan Taylor outdid himself. And the victor of this category is Zack Snyder. It's fair to say that Zack dominated the box office with Man of Steel. A film doesn't climb up the list of highest grossing films on first day so much to the extent where it beats Toy Story freaking 3 without it even being a decent movie. All actors performed to their best ability, and as a hardcore Superman fan, I was completely riveted.
From directors to games, and 2013 certainly has a lot to offer. To kick things off, allow yourself to cast your mind back to March for the release of the latest Tomb Raider game. This smooth and intense game, despite what others may say, was very truthful to the Tomb Raider franchise. The casting was excellent and the game was so finely tuned that you almost feel the pain that Lara was going through. The new addition of the bow and arrow as Miss Croft's primary weapon was a refreshing change from her dual pistols. The weapon and tool customizations was a great aspect and you could really feel the benefit of the upgrades. We then come to Injustice: Gods Among Us. From the makers of Mortal Kombat comes an amazing new fighting game for any superhero fan. Set in an alternative reality, all the superheroes are faced with a threat that they all had hoped would never come: Superman gone evil. The precision of the fighting mechanics in this game are very well done, and the signature ultimate moves of each character are very engaging to say the least. This coupled with loads of new characters and skins to unlock, this game is a must-have for any superhero or fighting game fan. Following on comes The Last of Us. This original take on the zombie genre follows the journey of Joel and young Ellie through their desperate scramble to survive in a broken world. The wide range of options in this game will keep you hooked for days. Despite only being a PlayStation 3 exclusive, The Last of Us was the second largest game launch of 2013, selling over 1.3 million in its first week of retail. Next up is Pokemon X and Y. What perfect way to mark the next step in Pokemon gaming by bringing back the first generation Pokemon that we all know and love. Finally, fans can battle their friends with ease. Trainers can battle Gen 1 Butterfree against Gen 6 Vivillon. You can now have triple battles and put Bulbasaur, Charmander and Squirtle up against Froakie, Fennekin and Chespin. X and Y have really stepped up the game for Pokemon, as this is the first Pokemon game that is not top-down, aside from obvious examples such as Pokemon Stadium. The new battle mechanics and animations make the game exciting and enthralling, and with the exciting addition of Mega Evolutions, X and Y is the ultimate game for any Pokemon trainer. And finally, the famous Grand Theft Auto 5, the highest grossing and fastest selling entertainment product of all time, and quite rightly so. Making $1 billion in 3 days, GTA 5 is the most funny, intense, deep, engaging, dark and enthralling games I've ever played. The level of detail in the game allows such a wide variety of activities. The transition between the three protagonists coupled with the choices you must make throughout the game allow for superb storytelling. From people who may initially present themselves as psychopaths, thugs and lowlifes, you later discover their intentions and their goals in life and end up wanting them to succeed. With a vast and expansive multiplayer, you and your friends will never get bored. But even if you don't want to play online, you can get more than enough enjoyment from the single player alone. What's that? You want to ride an explosive rigged motorbike onto a train, then drive off the front of the train in slow motion, shoot the driver and then land back in the truck as it hits the ramp, and then sends you flying into the back of a cargo plane so you can detonate your bike and blow up the plane and jump out the last second for a free fall for a few seconds before parachuting into a swimming pool overlooking the coast of Los Santos? Done. And the best game of 2013 is Tomb Raider. You may have been expecting us to say Grand Theft Auto 5. However, although it cannot compare to the success of GTA 5 in terms of figures, Tomb Raider was a huge success in its own nostalgia-filled way and was a game that needed to come out and have fantastic gameplay.
But GTA is a close second.
As a prequel, it certainly serves its purpose, as Lara is not quickly thrust into being the badass character we know her to be. You actually see her learn and overcome her fears, as we do as well. The game feels right as a Tomb Raider game. The traditional puzzles and exploration features one expects from a Tomb Raider game were implemented in a more subtle and less obvious way, causing them to seem realistic and actual problems as opposed to abstract puzzles that don't really make any sense, which I feel was what people were expecting and henceforth what the game was criticised for. Although the multiplayer is a slight disappointment in its simplicity, it is irrelevant, as the sheer magnitude, adventure, excitement, story and action of the single player is rewarding enough. The graphics are incredible, and if you're playing on the PC, utterly astounding, from the rays of sunlight to the strands of Lara's hair. There are moments throughout the story that are so inspiring and heart-pounding, you really can get behind Lara's struggle. Camilla Luddington really did well in the iconic role. The whole game is concluded in one final kill that perfectly sums up the game in a traditional Tomb Raider manner. As we move swiftly to our conclusion to this year's award ceremony, we arrive at TV shows. Let's start with The Walking Dead Season 4. The season continues the story of former Sheriff's Deputy Rick Grimes, who relinquished his leadership in order to live a quiet life, in contrast to his cold-hearted nature in the previous season. Rick's fellow survivors struggle to maintain their idealistic lifestyle in the prison in the face of threats, including the proliferation of walkers near the prison gates, the outbreak of a contagious and undeadly flu-like infection within the prison population, and the unknown whereabouts of the governor, who is still at large. Next, let's look at Breaking Bad Season 5, the final season and the long-awaited conclusion. After erasing all evidence linking them to the murder of Gus Fring, Walter White resumes cooking meth, starting a new operation when Mike Ehrmantraut joins Walt and Jesse as a distributor, although he distrusts their methylamine supplier Lyda Rodart Quayle, a shipping executive with Madrigal Electromotive, the parent company of Gus Fring's Los Polos Hermanos. Then comes Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Set after the Battle of New York, Agent Phil Coulson puts together a small team of normal, non-superhuman S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to handle strange new cases. Each case will test the team in cooperation and ingenuity as they try to work together in trying to save the world from threatening supernatural events on Earth. Next up is Legend of Korra Book 2. I personally love Legend of Korra as it takes the pretenses of Legend of Aang and puts them into a darker and more corrupt world. After Book 1, Air, Book 2, Spirits, follows Korra to attempt to master her connection with the spirits and become the bridge between the spirit world and the physical world. However, after a conflict between the Southern Water Tribe, Korra's home, and the Northern Water Tribe gets out of hand, both the spirit and physical worlds are at stake. And last but not least, we have Game of Thrones Season 3. Season 3 spans several months on a world where the seasons can last for years at a time. Autumn has fallen across the world, with winter not far behind. The people should be preparing for this year's snow and ice, but the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros instead remain gripped by civil war. Would-be King Renly Baratheon has been assassinated, altering the alliances in the war. The cruel boy king Joffrey Baratheon has won great victory by securing an alliance with the House Tyrell, with his supporters defeating his uncle Stannis in an epic battle. Joffrey now commands the largest armies in the realm, and his triumph appears inevitable. And the winner is Breaking Bad Season 5. The long-awaited conclusion to what some are calling the greatest TV show in history certainly does not disappoint. Whether you call it a half season or consider these final 8 episodes its own season, this final batch of Breaking Bad is one of the best run of episodes TV has ever offered.
And finally, we have come to the most important category, movies. And boy, does 2013 have a lot to offer. Let's do this, man.
Since this is such an important category, we have decided to do it in ranking order.
At number 5, we have Captain Phillips. Starring Tom Hanks and directed by Paul Greengrass, Captain Phillips is an emotional and painfully sorrowing film to watch. Based on a true story, Captain Richard Phillips is taken hostage by Somali pirates. This is not just a hostage and rescue film. You also connect with the pirates and start to yearn for them to make the right choice. This is truly one of Tom Hanks' finest. At number 4 comes The Hobbit: Desolation of Smaug. There's something about Peter Jackson's direction that just makes any Middle-earth film beautiful, heartwarming, and tonally encapsulating. Starring Martin Freeman, Bilbo continues his journey to Erebor with Thorin, Oakenshield, Gandalf, and the rest of the company of dwarves. With appearances of Radagast, Legolas, and Jackson's new character, Tauriel, who completely kicks ass, and Benedict Cumberbatch as the voice of Smaug and the Necromancer.
Step into light.
Desolation of Smaug is a must-see. number 3 is Star Trek Into Darkness. Whether you're a Trekkie or not, Into Darkness appeals to all audiences. Directed by J.J. Abrams, Trek 2 plays upon the concept of the original Star Trek film, Wrath of Khan. With Benedict Cumberbatch playing Khan, this explosive sci-fi thriller is so diverse in the layers it is put into. Finally, the film involves the switching of roles from Wrath of Khan, so as Kirk dies in front of Spock, Spock unleashes the classic Kirk line. At number 2, we have Gravity, directed by Alfonso Cuarón and starring Sandra Bullock. This highly intense and stressful film will, at the same time, take the viewer on a terrifyingly beautiful journey of space, emotions, and the human spirit. Filled with threats and dangers, this film is able to portray the tranquility of peacefulness of space, but also when something goes wrong, everything is a danger. It is able to connect the Earth and space together in a way that it feels like the characters have been on one whole journey, not just two.
Okay, we get it. It's scientifically inaccurate. Very, very scientifically inaccurate. Would you just fuck off already?
Wow, way to kill the mood.
Oh, fuck you.
And now we've come to the one that you've all been waiting for. At number 1, the best movie of 2013 is Man of Steel. Man of Steel is an incredible film. Directed by Zack Snyder and starring Henry Cavill, the latest film in the Superman universe is one of the most successful to date. Despite the controversy over various plot elements, such as Zod's death, it's scenes like these that reinforce the humanity in Clark, and how he has to do whatever it takes to save the people of whom he protects, and he does so because they are lesser than him. Kal-El does whatever it takes to save them, even if that means destroying the last remnant of his own people. The film is full of his humanity, and how although he comes from a higher place and has far more power than them, he is at heart a human being. This is reinforced by the numerous biblical references, such as Clark being 33, the same age as Jesus when he was crucified, when Kal-El made a cross shape with his body as he leaves the Kryptonian ship, and how he allows himself to be taken prisoner by humans, even though he has the power to escape at any time. Also, the action and flight sequences were the best we've ever seen in the history of superhero movies. This is a new kind of Superman, one who explores his humanity and has a darker story. We can only hope that this carries out to a sequel in 2015.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up for 2013.
Thank you all for watching. We really hope that you enjoyed this award ceremony. Be sure to subscribe to this channel on your way out.
Be sure to subscribe to my channel too. Links are in the description. I'm George S198 of Terrestrial Studios.
And my name is Blaze Pascua from Cascade Entertainment, and we'll see you next year for the Entertainment Media Awards Ceremony 2014.